Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 26. And I'm so glad that I finally figured out which issue this was. I wanted to see more of the backstory on Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, and this is the issue where it's all laid out. One thing that I'm going to say, and this kills me when I see people write articles that be like, the story behind Snake Eyes or whatever. And so you go to the website and kind of flick through it, and they'll show either stills from like the cartoon or comic pages, and they will not cite where it is. Like they'll show you like a cartoon still frame. What episode is that? What season? Nobody gives you that information. Same thing with this. I saw clips from this comic. I had to go dig and dig and dig and dig and finally find a website that said what issue it was. So if you're going to do a website or do a review, please give people some reference, because when you're trying to go back and find these books, sometimes, we're talking about years of media to have to dig through. So help us out a little bit. So with that said, again, issue 26 from Marvel Comics gives the backstory of Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. And that's where it begins, and I believe it spills over into issue 27, which I'm making sure to order today. Because after I read this, excellent read, guys. So, at last, the strangest secret of all. Subject, Snake Eyes. And before we get into all of this, the print date on this book was August 1984. And so, from what I understand, because I don't have issue 25, I'm guessing this sort of wraps up what happened last issue. This takes place in the Florida Everglades. And this is the junkyard. So that's Mutt's dog. And before we get into that, I'm looking over here and I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably talk about who made this book, huh? So let's talk about who made this book. It's early, no coffee, so I'm not with the program quite yet. Script and breakdowns, Larry Hama. Finishes, Stevie Lealoa, I think is how you pronounce that. Lettering, Rick Parker. Coloring, George Russos. Editor was Denny O'Neil, and editor-in-chief was Jim Shooter. And so Zartan here, which it's weird seeing Zartan look like full-on robot. It's like, I didn't know that Destro had a soft spot for dogs. It's like, why don't you move and I'll put it out of its misery. And I think one reason why I've always enjoyed Destro over, say, Cobra Commander is, if you remember the cartoon, like I'm slowly starting to get into the Marvel Comics, which are excellent, by the way, if you've never read them. But even in the cartoon, Cobra Commander, just like how the voice actor did for Starscream, is both of them always go half-cocked. They let their ego get in the way, and they always end up stumbling over themselves. Not to say that Destro is not the same, but he's a little more debonair about it. So listen to this. After Zartan says, move, let me kill the dog, Destro's like, I knew an Eskimo once who said that a man who whips a dog will pull his own sled someday. Tell me, Zartan, what is this dog doing out here in this swamp alone? And why does he look expectantly out in the cypress groves? So that's why I like Destro the most, because he's a little more calculating and knows how to play to people's egos, like Cobra Commander, where if you remember from the cartoon, he'd be like, oh, Cobra Commander, you're right, la 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 la. And then him and Baroness would always find a way to kind of subvert or have their own machinations in the process. So that's why he's always been an interesting character of mine. So why is Junkyard in that swamp house or the boathouse? I have no idea, because I haven't read issue 25. But I hate to tell you this, Mutt, but your dog Junkyard is licking Destro's hand and pointing happily in our direction. I raised him from a puppy, and this is the way he pays me back. I tell you, Torpedo, life ain't fair. And so all the Cobra High commands there, getting restless, Baroness. The G.I. Joe team is out there, Cobra Commander. I can almost smell them. So this is kind of the over arc of this part of the book with the G.I. Joe team. But here, this is where the book gets interesting for me as we go into the Spanish Harlem, which I'm assuming is New York. If I'm wrong, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments. We see this kid just kind of looking around sort of suspiciously, enters this restaurant, and this older gentleman's just like, yes, can I help you? Yeah, you can empty your cash register and make it fast, or you can make my day. Oh my goodness gracious me, this is a robbery? Am I being threatened with wanton violence by a feral youth? I just love the way that this dude's just super zen calm about this. And the boy's just like, you're asking for trouble, old man. No, it is you who's asking for trouble. Are you aware that a Colt M1911A1 .45 caliber pistol is completely incapable of operation while the safety catch is engaged? Yeah, well now it's off. So with the safety off, I can jack the slide back like so, ejecting the round in the chamber, preventing the next round from being stripped off the magazine. A simple pressure from my thumb on the magazine latch ejects the full clip, leaving the pistol empty of ammunition and locked in the open position. Now guys, I'm not super versed in guns, but let me ask you, if you grab the barrel of a gun from that direction, is it easier to jack it back? Because when you're trying to pull the slider, sometimes those things are just freaking, not all of them, but the Rugers in particular, they were a son of a beaver to pull back on. So I don't know how legit that was. And one thing that makes this book more verisimilitude, if you don't know what verisimilitude means, it's like the appearance of truth. They use that in theater and film. And the reason I say that is because, this older gentleman realizes it's a .45 caliber gun. He knows it's what type of model it is. And the reason being is, I bring this up, is because Larry Hama was a vet. I think it was Vietnam, I'm not 100% sure. But, being in the force, you learn those kind of things. And then when he was asked to create this comic book for Hasbro, he brought his military knowledge with him. So this feels more legit than just like some writer who's like flipping through a Wikipedia page, or the old school ones are maybe like an encyclopedia. Larry Hama brings like first world knowledge to this book and brings it into his characters. And what I like is how this guy's able to handle himself. He goes, I happen to like empty pistols. I'll buy it from you for $50. What do you say? And then finally, I like how they kept this kind of hooded character in the panel. He goes, take it. It's much better price than the man with the Uzi behind his paper would give you. So you realize, you're like, okay, so this older gentleman runs kind of this rundown restaurant, and then all of a sudden Snake Eyes is there. What the hell is going on? But it's just some good reading right there. So I'm going to go ahead and skip the next part, because again, I don't want to spoil this whole book. I want you guys to go get this if you can. But we jump to the pit, which I'm guessing during this time of Marvel Comics, this was G.I. Joe's headquarters, and they're looking over this hexagram, which is the same tattoo that both Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes share, and this is Hawk and Scarlet. And like another did in Scarlet, they said the mark on both their arms is a hexagram from the I Ching, and I like that Larry Hama makes sure to let people know that I Ching means Ancient Chinese Book of Wisdom. So you're not just having to be like, wait, what the hell? Because there's times where people will put stuff in there, and I actually have to stop reading and go look it up, because I'm like, what does that even mean? And once I do, the book's a lot more enjoyable. I miss when writers would do that to just kind of help the audience at least get a basic understanding of what's going on. Then you can go research more if you want. So enters Stalker, and he's like, unless you knew that hexagram linked them together. So Stalker talks about how when they were, I guess this is Vietnam, because he says Charles, but they used to call the Viet Cong Charlie. He's talking about how him and a company of 6, I guess, were supposed to go into enemy lines. 3 escaped. He goes, so we decided to sneak out through the bottom lane. I took the point. Tommy took the center. He was a Japanese-American kid out of Fresno. Unpronounceable last name. Everyone knew him as Tommy. Snake Eyes brought up the tail with his M60. Even back then, he was a mystery. So it's kind of interesting that we get these 3 characters, and this shows that even back before Snake Eyes had the ninja uniform, he was still kind of this strange character. And Stalker continues on saying that they see a Vietnam, point man who wandered ahead of his platoon. Stalker wants to shoot him, but Tommy brings up with his bow and arrow. And I love these silhouettes. It adds to the carnage without being too gratuitous. It gets the point across, especially, during this time in the war where Vietnam was a nasty, nasty, nasty war. So that just really adds to the intensity. He goes, Tommy reminded me that although a suppressor stifles the discharge report of a gun, it does nothing to silence the sonic boom of the bullet. And then organically, as Hama's writing this, he talks about how Tommy and Snake Eyes have been through a few tours together. Tommy was always talking Snake Eyes' ear off, but he was always busy looking at a picture of his sister. And he was talking about how his picture of his sister was a good luck charm. As long as he kept it safe, nothing bad could happen to him. But as they get to the LZ, which Hama explains landing zone, Snake Eyes is taken down. And Stalker commands said, let's leave him. He's done for. But you see this character, Tommy, dodges all this enemy fire to get his friend. He goes, Tommy didn't even get nicked. Like he could really dodge bullets. I still don't believe it, but I saw it. And Stalker says that while Tommy was using his wristbands to bandage Snake Eyes, he's like, I saw the tattoo. And then this image right here, this is gorgeous. How we see the helicopter, we see Stalker kind of transitioning from memory back to reality. He goes, I just called records division at the Leonard Wood. Tommy's unpronounceable name, it translates directly into English as Storm Shadow. That's some damn good writing. We don't get that type of writing very much anymore in the big 2 comics. And indie creators have made some very profound stories. And not to say, like there's creators like Chip Zdarsky, who's done some really great work with Spider-Man and Daredevil, but it's too far and few between compared to like the old school where a lot of these issues, even though they may not be worth a lot, let's not get into that, at least there was some really great storytelling. And then what I liked is when I was looking this book up, it says this delivers the origins of Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes and also gives you a revelation about Cobra Commander. So as I'm reading, I'm waiting for like this big reveal, and I'm thinking that was kind of a tease, because what you find out is they decide to follow the mutt, because we're back in reality now. And the revelation about Cobra Commander is like, this had better prove fruitful, Baroness. You know how I dislike soiling my boots. Okay, I guess that's a thing. But anyway, Baroness, I like how she's cool, collected. She goes, trust me, Cobra Commander. The dog is on to something. So all this stuff in the main present, we're finding out about Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, yada, yada, yada. They're still building the suspense of what's going to happen to these Joes that are behind enemy lines. Okay. Flip the page, they're sticking together. But then we go back to the restaurant, and we get some more story about this older man, which we'll get into in a minute. We see the picture of his sister, and it's just a really great way that they segue back into the past, because Hawk talks about how Snake Eyes, Stalker, and Tommy return. And during Vietnam, like World War II, from what I remember of history, is they got like ticker tape parades. Everyone held them as heroes. But with Vietnam, when our boys came back, it was bad how it treated our vets. They called them baby killers, etc., so forth. Now, I don't want to get all into it, but yes, some bad shit happened in Vietnam. But still, to treat our vets that way, anyway, I'm not going to go into a tangent about that, sorry, but just the way Hama writes this, you feel what you've learned in history class and what you've independently read. And what I like is how he says, the boys didn't care. They were just glad to be home and rolling in those sweet, loving arms of their family. So we see Stalker with his. We see another. I think this is Tommy. I'm not 100% sure. But we see this gentleman. And they said nobody came to meet Snake Eyes. And just the negative space that they used and made him look small, it just gives that emptiness, alone, and tragic feeling. Now, the reason Hawk says that I'm picking up the story from here is because he's the one that has to. This is his first interaction with Snake Eyes. He goes, nobody except me, and I was a good 4 hours late. I was driving a desk at headquarters when a message came through the office that had to be dealt with quickly and tactfully. It took me 2 hours to drive to that airport, and I must have rehearsed what I was going to say 1,000 times. Now, before I go any further, there's a scene, I don't remember where it is in the book now, but they talk about how twins, for those of you that are twins, let me know how accurate this is, but they say that they have like this underlying thing where they can kind of feel like a empath way the way that each others are feeling, or if that one of them's in danger, etc., so forth. Because Hawk says before he can even deliver the news, I didn't have to say anything. He knew. He saw my uniform and the look on my face, and he knew. Like he'd already seen the whole horrible scene through his sister's eyes. So according to this book, Snake Eyes, while he was overseas, his mother and father and sister were killed in a horrible car crash. So you get some really emotional, heart-tugging moments. You're just like, damn. And Hawk explains what happened. I don't want to give that away. Again, read the book. And again, just the way that things are just nonchalantly, or the best way I could say nonchalantly placed in here, is this older gentleman again is like, the wheels of fate ground away the life you knew, and since you fly into Japan like an arrow. So we see this broken arrow. We saw it on the cover as well. Now, when I was talking about Tommy talking to Snake Eyes saying he should join the family business, he says it's back in Japan. So Snake Eyes, having nothing, says, your friend Tommy, my nephew, had promised a place in the family business. And so, suitcase in hand, you came knocking at the gate of our family estate. And so we come to find out that older gentleman that we've been following, he was the vice president, and he was called the soft master. And then there was the older brother, the hard master. And then Tommy, the young master. Now, one thing is they say it's a family business. I don't know, maybe it's revealed later on, but I don't know if this clan was just a clan and it was a business, or if it was like the Yakuza. I'm not 100% sure. But Snake Eyes joins them, and he becomes a deadly assassin, and it explains what the type of life of a samurai or a ninja is once you don the hood. Now here. So we see Tommy and Snake Eyes dueling here. The soft master, the one that we've been following thus far, is asking the hard master who's going to win in this bout between friends. And the hard master says Snake Eyes won before the first pass. But when you look at it with the naked eye, it shows that Storm Shadow won. So again, spoilers. I know I'm kind of spoiling this book. It's older, but this book is so damn good that I just want to show you guys. So if you don't want any more, pause, hunt down the book, and then come back. And you're back. So kind of coming down here, it says, my brother, the hard master, smiled. He hadn't overestimated your skill. He had underestimated your character. You had let the young master win, so he wouldn't lose face. Now, the one thing it reveals here that Storm Shadow is better at than Snake Eyes is archery. They called him the ear that sees, meaning that if there's like a wall, he could hear the target and where it is on the other side. But as the Soft Master says, he says, but the only way to hone and test this power was to kill. This you found abhorrent, and thus was a wedge driven between two friends. Because it just shows Snake Eyes training, and then it shows Tommy shoot through and kill a squirrel, which Snake Eyes does not agree with. So it shows that the Hard Master gives a proposition to Snake Eyes, which again, I don't want to give away, but there's a betrayal. If you remember the arrow from the beginning of the book, or that the Soft Master was showing when it says you came to Japan, just like an arrow. And so there's a betrayal. What it means, you guys are going to have to read the book. So this is kind of where you see the rift and why Storm Shadow comes to Cobra. So guys, this was an excellent, excellent read. It feels like, to a degree, that the cartoon was good for what it was. They had to tone it down, obviously, for a kid audience. But I like that Larry Hama, even though this book was, again, supposed to promote the cartoon, he just went full on and did what he wanted to do. And that's why, in my personal opinion, the G.I. Joe comic from Marvel, yeah, there's a couple of the IDW ones that are really good, specifically from Larry Hama and Chuck Dixon, that are absolutely amazing. But you go back to the early 80s, when nobody knew if this was going to take off, you get some damn fine storytelling and some badass artwork. And you get to learn a little sneakiness about Junkyard, the dog, as well. So guys, G.I. Joe number 26, excellent comic book. If you've enjoyed it, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if they have one in stock. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Yo Joe bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.